You need viruses. Now, if we look at something else, people say, oh, the viruses are making people sick. Unfortunately, one of the things that they do is you have something called ACE receptors. It's tied to angiotensin 2. I won't get into all the chemistry, biochemistry around that, but you have these receptors. And when people have certain diseases, such as kidney disease or liver disease or heart disease, they are given medications that kind of amp up these ACE receptors. But the ACE receptors are the ones that receive the novel coronavirus. Well, did the SARS virus as well, and MERS even, Middle East respiratory syndrome. And so, again, MERS was the same way, 2 seasons and it was gone. It was no viruses, the same virus is not replicated year after year after year. Viruses are the change patterns. And so in order for them to occur in any number, the planetary environment has to be stressed. Now, if we go to the Wuhan area, we see it's a farming area. It's an area that has used a lot of pesticide. And one of the most toxic pesticides there is you know the agent is Roundup, but it is glyphosate. And so this glyphosate is an antibiotic, but what it does is it kills the microbiome. So the places where this is sprayed on the food or in the fields, it kills the microbiome in the soil. It's literally poisoning the soil. And so the bacteria and the fungi that are there kind of go into panic mode and they start extruding all of this genetic material to try to save themselves. And what happens is viruses are created. So without the stress, we don't need to create as many viruses. But I can tell you, it's not only the glyphosate. The same area had a lot of air pollution. And there's a couple of components to that. There's the air pollution that comes from driving cars or vehicles. There's the air pollution that comes from generating energy, particularly if it's coal-fired energy. And so when we have all of these, something gets into the air that scientists call PM 2.5, I guess. And what that means is particulate matter or material, which is in the air, and you have so many particles per cubic meter and all of that. But basically, this particular level is a level that is associated with exhaust pollution and the pollution from creating energy, especially if it's coming from coal. So all of this gets in the air. And what this particular combining of particulates do is it causes the viruses to clump. So when a person breathes in these particulates and the virus is attached to it because it attaches to this particular, the 2.5 micron particle, when it attaches to that and comes inside, you're getting not just a single virus, you are getting these clumps of massive chunks of the virus, and they are going in, embedding in the cells and so on. But this particular level of particulate, see, they're measured by size, and this particular size is what holds the cyanide that is given off in both the production of energy and in the running of automobiles. So the cyanide then clumps with these clumps of virus. And if you know anything about cyanide poisoning, the way people die is something called hypoxia. Interestingly enough, the people who have died, particularly the elderly, who were first the highest category, were dying not of the virus, but of hypoxia. Now, left in nature, the people who study these things will tell you that the death rate from something like this novel coronavirus should be about 0.3 to 0.5%, 0.5%. If you end up in an ICU and you're put on a ventilator, the mortality rate is closer to 80%. So we have a real problem, and part of it is the way the medical profession has tended to see what viruses are. They're trying to create agents to kill the virus, but if it isn't alive, how do we kill it? Interesting, isn't it? But often people who are what are termed infected with the virus don't run a fever. Some do, but not all do. And particularly those who end up dying of hypoxia, they're dying really of cyanide poisoning. And if you look in the United States, New York was hit so hard, and Southern California is being hit hard now. These are places with a lot of air pollution because there's a lot of vehicles driving. Now, if you go back and you remember the situation in China, their curve flattened. And interestingly enough, what everybody said was it was the distancing or the separating of people. Now that does prevent the sharing of contagion, but that's not really what stopped people getting sick and dying. They quit driving. They quit transporting things. They quit making energy. They shut down the trains. Suddenly the air was clean and people were breathing. They might have been taking in the virus, but they weren't taking in these clumps that were gathered with the cyanide. And so what we have to look at here is, were people dying of the virus? Some say so. Or were they dying from these poisons? Now remember, it was the glyphosate that caused the microbiome in the soil to panic, freak out, get very agitated, exude all of this genetic material, which came together in viruses. And I know there is some people are saying, oh, this was created in a laboratory somewhere and it's some kind of human warfare. I don't think so. And here's why. From what I see going on in the laboratories, they're not that sophisticated. They're nowhere near as sophisticated as nature is. Again, this virus appears to have a strand of RNA that no one has ever seen.